Welcome back to our RAD terminology series. In this video, we're going to look at words beginning with the letter G. As I said before, I'm not going through every single word in the RAD dictionary, just those that I feel are either the most useful or the most frequently used. Starting off with Gargouillade. So Gargouillades are notoriously difficult. They are a kind of jump and they're quite similar to a pas de chat. There are also different versions of a gargouillade, but the RAD version involves a double rond de jambe en l'air of the first leg, followed by a single rond of the second leg before closing. Other versions include a single rond de jambe of each leg. Some versions might be en dedans rather than en dehors. I actually never teach en dedans because I feel everything is so quick, the audience truly doesn't see whether you're going en dehors or en dedans. But if you go en dehors, there's more of a chance that you're going to push your rotation, push your heels forward. If you're thinking en dedans, you're more likely to turn the leg in a little bit. So I always teach en dehors. But you can either do singles on both legs, you can do a double on the first leg and a single on the second, that's the RAD method. And then there are versions where there are doubles on both legs, which is truly very hard. Next we have a glissade piquée. I feel like this term isn't used very often. It is a jump, but it's a very small jump. You're not looking for height. It's a traveling action that takes you either sideways, forwards or backwards, and you brush the feet along the floor. They just leave the floor. You can have glissades devant, derrière, dessous, dessus. If you want to check out the D letter word videos, I go into a lot more detail of what dessous, dessus, derrière, devant means. The only one I wanted to touch on is glissade dessous and glissade dessus. So in RAD, a glissade dessous starts with the front leg initiating the movement and the front leg will finish at the back. A glissade dessus is the back leg starting the glissade and it will finish at the front. The only reason why I wanted to bring this up is because some schools will teach the opposite meaning, including the school I went to. So that means a glissade dessous is the back leg coming front and a glissade dessus is the front leg going back. So just to be clear, RAD, glissade dessous, front leg finishes back, glissade dessus, back leg finishes front. Next we have glissé. So a battement glissé done at the bar is very similar to a battement dégagé, but with a glissé, the foot just leaves the floor. We're talking by like a couple of centimeters rather than going for a 45-degree angle like we would with a battement jeté. There are a lot of ballet terms that begin with the word grande. Grande just means big in French. So let's have a look at grande fourth en fondu. So this is essentially a lunge, but it's fourth position because if you were to straighten the legs and make them a bit more narrow, this is our fourth. So by taking this position to a wider stance, front leg bent, this is called grande fourth en fondu. Grand Allegro is a series of big jumps. This is typically done towards the end of a class and they will usually be bigger in height, but also they'll take up more space in the room. They're typically done with vigour and a lot more energy compared to your maybe petit Allegro, which is small jumps. Next we have Grande Assemblé Soutenu. So we've looked at an Assemblé Soutenu in our A letter words. Grande Assemblé Soutenu just means you're doing a 180 degrees rond de jambe of the working leg before you complete your soutenu rather than just a quarter rond de jambe. Grand Battement, we all know our Grand Battement. It's typically one of the last exercises at the bar. It involves throwing the legs up in quite a strong, dynamic way, keeping the legs straight, and a Grand Battement will need to be at least 90 degrees in height. You can have lots of different types of grand battements. You could have a grand battement développé, a grand battement enveloppé, a grand battement piqué, grand battement en cloche, or even a grand battement relevé. You can also have a grand battement en rond or en rond in French. So this is where the foot traces a horizontal circular line from the front to the side if it's en dehors, or from the back to the side if it's en dedans. A grand circular port de bras is done in our grand fourth en fondu, and it involves a circular motion of the torso as the arms also perform a circular motion going around, typically starting in a fourth position, reaching forwards, going through fourth to the other side, and then round to the back before you usually finish where you started, but this can vary. Grand Jeté, so this is essentially your split leaps. You have a few different types of Grand Jetés. They can be done with a développé leg, so this means the leg sort of unfurls, it bends and stretches as you take off, or it can be done with a Battement leg, which is a completely straight front leg. There are also a few different types of Grand Jetés. You could do it with the back leg in attitude. You could do a Grand Jeté en Tournant, and a Grand Jeté can be done with all sorts of different arms. You could have arms in first arabesque, second arabesque, third arabesque, fifth position, fourth, or even like open fifth. I think those are the most common. A Grand Pas de Basque en Tournant involves kicking up one leg, kicking up the other, passing through fifth on demi-point, and then performing a pas de bourrée en tournant. Grand Plié is a bend of both knees. This is typically done at the bar. In first position, third, fourth and fifth, the heels come up. In second position, however, the heels stay down. So the difference between a demi-plié and a grand plié in second is just the depth. So those are our G letter words from our RAD dictionary. I hope you found this helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.